The Three Musicians by Aubrey Beardsley. Read for LibriVox.org by Amy Gramour. Along the path that skirts the wood, the three musicians wend their way, pleased with their thoughts, each other's mood, for its himmel's latest roundelay, the morning's work, a new-found theme, their breakfast, and the summer day. One's a soprano, lightly frocked, in cool white muslin that just shows her brown silk stockings gaily clocked, plump arms and elbows tipped with rose, and frills of petticoats and things, and outlines as the warm wind blows. Beside her a slim, gracious boy hastens to mend her tresses' fall, and dies her favour to enjoy, and dies for reclam and recall, at Paris and St. Petersburg, Vienna and St. James's Hall. The third's a Polish pianist, with big engagements everywhere, a light heart and an iron wrist, and shocks and shoals of yellow hair, and fingers that can trill on sixths, and fill beginners with despair. The three musicians stroll along, and pluck the ears of ripened corn, break into odds and ends of song, and mock the woods with Siegfried's horn, and fill the air with Gluck, and fill the tweeded tourist's soul with scorn. The Polish genius lags behind, and with some poppies in his hand, picks out the strings and wood and wind of an imaginary band, enchanted that for once his men obey his beat and understand. The charming cantatrice reclines, and rests a moment where she sees her chateau's roof that hotly shines amid the dusky summer trees, and fans herself, half shuts her eyes, and smooths the frock about her knees. The gracious boy is at her feet, and weighs his courage with his chance. His fears soon melt in noonday heat. The tourist gives a furious glance, red as his guidebook grows, moves on, and offers up a prayer for France. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Bird Language by Christopher Pierce Cronch. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. One day in the bluest of summer weather, sketching under a whispering oak, I heard 5 bobolinks laughing together over some ornithological joke. What the fun was I couldn't discover. Language of birds is a riddle on earth. What could they find in whiteweed and clover to split their sides with such musical mirth? Was it some prank of the prodigal summer? Face in the cloud or voice in the breeze? Querulous catbird, woodpecker, drummer, cawing of crows high over the trees? Was it some chipmunk's chatter or weasel under the stone wall stealthy and sly? Or was the joke about me at my easel, trying to catch the tints of the sky? Still they flew tipsily, shaking all over, bubbling with jollity, brimful of glee, while I sat listening deep in the clover, wondering what their jargon could be. 'Twas but the voice of a morning the brightest that ever dawned over yon shadowy hills. 'Twas but the song of all joy that is lightest, sunshine breaking in laughter and trills. Vain to conjecture the words they are singing, only by tones can we follow the tune, in the full heart of the summer fields ringing, ringing the rhythmical gladness of June. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Charles V's Clocks by John Quincy Adams. Read for LibriVox.org. Charles V's Clocks. With Charles V art thou acquainted, reader, of Ferdinand and Isabel the grandson, in ages past of Europe's realm's file leader, amongst the mightiest of all ages one. Spain, Germany, his sceptre swayed, with feet victorious over France he trod, Afric and Italy his laws obeyed, and either India trembled at his nod. Well, reader, this same monarch mighty, like many of his stamp before, down to the latest of the set, whose names I leave in blank as yet, and with Napoleon you may fill, or Alexander as you will. Charles, seated upon all his thrones, with all his crowns upon his head, built piles on piles of human bones, as if he meant to reign the sovereign of the dead. He kept the world in uproar 40 years, and waded bloody oceans through, feasted on widows and on orphans' tears, and cities sacked and millions slew. And all the pranks of conquering heroes played, a master workman at the royal trade, the recipe approved time out of mind, to win the hearts of all mankind. But heroes too get weary of their trade. Charles had a conscience and grew old, the gout sometimes an ugly visit paid, a voice within unwelcome stories told, that heroes just like common men one day must die, and then of what might happen Charles was sore afraid. Of Charles' wars need little here be said, their causes were ambition, avarice, pride, despotic empire o'er the world to spread, revenge on Francis, who proclaimed he lied, and chiefly Luther's heresies to quell, to prove the wrong of Reformation, with fire and sword and desolation, and save the souls of Protestants from hell. But when the humor came to save his own, Charles stripped off all his royal robes, dismissed his double globes, cast down his crowns, descended from his throne, and with St. Jerome's monks retired to die alone. Charles had a maggot in the brain, restless, that needs must be of something thinking, and now, to keep his spirits from sinking, employment often at a loss to find. Much of his time he spent in prayer, in penance for his evil deeds, in saying masses, and in telling beads, in self-chastisement, till he bled a drop for every ton of others shed. And much his little garden claimed his care, in planting cabbages and plucking seeds, but these were simple occupations, and Charles, so long in empire's toils immersed, so deep in all their intricacies versed, some pastime needed, full of complications. So long his study had been man, his sport, his victim, man, of flesh and blood, that now with art mechanic he began to fashion mannikins of wood. Soon he became a skilful mechanician, and made his mimic men with so much art, they made St. Jerome's friars start, and think their royal master a magician, leagued with the mother of all evil, like Dr. Faustus, soul bound to the devil. At last the fancy seized his brain of perfect instruments for keeping time. Watches and clocks he made, but all in vain. He never could succeed to make them chime. With choice chronometers he'd line his cell. No two at once would ever ring the bell. Now mark the moral of my tale, which flashed in sunbeams upon Charles's soul, when he whose chisel could prevail man's outward actions to control, so that his puppets seemed as good as living men though made of wood, yet ever baffled found his skill to mold two watches to his will. He smote his bosom with a sigh, exclaiming, "What a dolt was I, by force constraining men to think alike, and cannot make two clocks together strike." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The City by Archibald Lampman. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The City. Canst thou not rest, O city, that liest so wide and fair? Shall never an hour bring pity, nor end be found for care? Thy walls are high in heaven, thy streets are gay and wide, beneath thy towers at even the dreamy waters glide. Thou art fair as the hills at morning, and the sunshine loveth thee, but its light is a gloom of warning on a soul no longer free. The curses of gold are about thee, and thy sorrow deepeneth still, one madness within and without thee, one battle blind and shrill. I see the crowds forever go by with hurrying feet, through doors that darken never I hear the engines beat. Through days and nights that follow the hidden mill-wheel strains, in the midnight's windy hollow I hear the roar of trains. And still the day fulfilleth, and still the night goes round, and the guest hall boometh and shrilleth with the dance's mocking sound. In chambers of gold Elysian the cymbals clash and clang, but the days are gone like a vision when the people wrought and sang. And toil hath fear for neighbour where singing lips are dumb, and life is one long labour till death or freedom come. Ah, the crowds that forever are flowing, they neither laugh nor weep. I see them coming and going like things that move in sleep. Grey sires and burdened brothers, the old, the young, the fair, wan cheeks of pallid mothers, and the girls with golden hair. Care sits in many a fashion, grown grey on many a head, and lips are turned to ashen, whose years have right to red. Canst thou not rest, O city, that liest so wide, so fair? Shalt never an hour bring pity, nor end be found for care. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Come, let us make love deathless, by Herbert Trench. Come, let us make love deathless, thou and I, seeing that our footing on the earth is brief, seeing that her multitudes sweep out to die, mocking all that passes our belief. For the standard of our love not theirs we take. If we go hence today, fill the high cup that is so soon to break with richer wine than they. Ay, since beyond these walls no heavens there be, joy to revive or wasted youth repair, I'll not bedim the lovely flame in thee, nor sully the sad splendour that we wear. Great be the love, if with the lover dies our greatness past recall, and nobler for the fading of those eyes the world seen once for all. End of poem.
Enigma 694 by Eugenie, from the Lady's Diary or Woman's Almanac for the year of our Lord 1787. Read for LibriVox.org. Enigma 694. Ladies, a well-known servant of the fair now humbly begs permission to appear, and sure you'll not deny a friend a place who gives you ease in almost every case. To bird or beast I partly owe my birth, and partly am indebted to the earth. When fortune proves severe, or friends unkind, to me your sorrows bear. In me you'll find a faithful friend, for ne'er was I accused of broken faith, or confidence abused. If from your eye a trickling tear should stray, I often wipe that trickling tear away. And though I can't your warmest wishes crown, your woes in sweet oblivion oft I drown. When health and strength and all enjoyments fail, when birth and wealth and titles naught avail, I ease afford, support the hoary head of age, his sorrows lessen and his pains assuage. Even when that awful period shall arrive, when anxious friends no kind relief can give, I still am near, assist the obstructed breath, and make more easy even the bed of death. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Gift of a Book to a Child by Hilaire Belloc. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. Child, do not throw this book about. Refrain from the unholy pleasure of cutting all the pictures out. Preserve it as your chiefest treasure. Child, have you never heard it said that you are heir to all the ages? Why, then your hands were never made to tear these beautiful thick pages. Your little hands were made to take the better things and leave the worse ones. They also may be used to shake the massive paws of elder persons. And when your prayers complete the day, darling, your little tiny hands were also made, I think, to pray for men that lose their fairy lands. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hymn to Joy by Johann Christoph Friedrich Schiller. Bulwer's translation. Read for LibriVox.org. Hymn to Joy. Spark from the fire that gods have fed. Joy, thou Elysian child divine. Fire drunk, our airy footsteps tread. O Holy One, thy holy shrine. Strong custom rends us from each other. Thy magic all together brings. And man in man but hails a brother, wherever rest thy gentle wings. Embrace ye millions, let this kiss, brothers, embrace the earth below, yon starry worlds that shine on this, one common Father know. He who this lot from fate can grasp, of one true friend the friend to be, he who one faithful maid can clasp, shall hold with us his jubilee. Yes, each who but one single heart in all the earth can claim his own. Let him who cannot stand apart and weep beyond the pale alone. Homage to holy sympathy, ye dwellers in our mighty ring. Up to yonder star pavilions, she leads to the unknown King. All being drinks the mother dew of joy from nature's holy bosom, and vice and worth alike pursue her steps that strew the blossom. Joy in each link, to us the treasure of wine and love. Beneath the sod, the worm has instincts fraught with pleasure. In heaven the cherub looks on God. Why bow ye down? Why down, ye millions? O world, thy Maker's throne to see, look upward, search the star pavilions, there must his mansion be. Joy is the mainspring in the whole of endless nature's calm rotation. Joy moves the dazzling wheels that roll in the great timepiece of creation. Joy breathes on buds, and flowers they are. Joy beckons, sun comes forth from heaven. Joy rolls the spheres and realms afar, ne'er to thy glass, dim wisdom, given. Joyous as suns careering gay along their paths on high. March, brothers, march your dauntless way, as chiefs to victory. Joy from truth's pure and lambent fires smiles out upon the ardent seeker. Joy leads to virtue man's desires, and cheers as suffering steps grow weaker. High from the sunny slopes of faith, the gales her waving banners buoy, and through the shattered vaults of death, lo, mid the choral angels, joy! Bear this life, millions, bravely bear. Bear this life for the better one. See the stars, a life is there, where the reward is won. Men like the gods themselves may be, though men may not the gods requite. Go soothe the pangs of misery, go share the gladness with delight. Revenge and hatred both forgot, have naught but pardon for thy foe. May sharp repentance grieve him not, no curse one tear of ours bestow. Let all the world be peace and love, cancel thy debt book with thy brother, for God shall judge of us above, as we shall judge each other. Joy sparkles to us from the bowl, behold the juice whose golden color to meekness melts the savage soul, and gives despair a hero's valor. Up, brothers, lo, we crown the cup, lo, the wine flashes to the brim, let the bright fount spring heavenward. Up to the good spirit this glass, to him! praised by the ever-whirling ring of stars and tuneful seraphim. To the good Spirit, the Father King, in heaven, this glass to him, firm mind to bear what fate bestows, comfort to tears in sinless eyes, faith kept alike with friends and foes, man's oath eternal as the skies, manhood, the throne of kings to girth, though bought by life or limb the prize, success to merit's honest worth, perdition to the brood of lies. Draw closer in the holy ring, swear by the wine cup's golden river, swear by the stars and by their king, to keep this vow forever. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Messmates by Henry Newbolt. Read for LibriVox.org by John Burlinson. He gave us all a good-bye cheerily at the first dawn of day. We dropped him down the side full drearily when the light died away. It's a dead dark watch that he's a-keeping there, and a long, long night that lags a-creeping there, where the trades and the tides roll over him and the great ships go by. He's there alone with green seas rocking him for 1,000 miles around. He's there alone with dumb things mocking him, and we're homeward bound. It's a long, lone watch that he's a-keeping there, and a dead cold night that lags a-creeping there, while the months and the years roll over him and the great ships go by. I wonder if the tramps come near enough as they thrash to and fro, and the battleships' bells ring clear enough to be heard down below. If through all the lone watch that he's a-keeping there, and the long cold night that lags a-creeping there, the voices of the sailor men shall comfort him when the great ships go by. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mirage by Amy Lowell. Read for LibriVox.org by Shakira. June 2016. How is it that being gone you fill my days, and all the long nights are made glad by thee? No loneliness is this, nor misery, but great content that these should be the ways whereby the fancy, dreaming as she strays, makes bright and present what she would be. And who shall say if the reality is not with dreams so pregnant? For delays and hindrances may bar the wished-for end. 1,000 misconceptions may prevent our souls from coming near enough to blend. Let me but think we have the same intent, that each one needs to call the other friend. It may be vain illusion. I'm content. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Nightfall by Sarah Teasdale. Read for LibriVox.org by Shakira. June 2016. We will never walk again as we used to walk at night, watching our shadows lengthen under the gold streetlight when the snow was new and white. We will never walk again slowly, we two, in spring when the park is sweet with midnight and with dew, and the passers-by are few. I sit and think of it all, and the blue June twilight dies. Down in the clanging square a street piano cries, and stars come out in the skies. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Open Windows by Sarah Teasdale. Read for LibriVox.org by Shakira. June 2016. Out of the window a sea of green trees lift their soft boughs like the arms of a dancer. They beckon and call me, "Come out in the sun." But I cannot answer. I am alone with weakness and pain, sick abed, and June is going. I cannot keep her. She hurries by with the silver green of her garments blowing. Men and women pass in the street, glad of the shining sapphire weather. But we know more of it than they, pain and I together. They are the runners in the sun, breathless and blinded by the race. But we are the watchers in the shade, who speak with wonder face to face. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Preludes by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. 1. The winter evening settles down with smell of steaks in passageways. 6 o'clock. The burnt-out ends of smoky days. And now a gusty shower wraps the grimy scraps of withered leaves about your feet and newspapers from vacant lots. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots, and at the corner of the street a lonely cab-horse steams and stamps, and then the lighting of the lamps. 2. The morning comes to consciousness of faint stale smells of beer from the sawdust-trampled street, with all its muddy feet that press to early coffee stands. With the other masquerades that time resumes, one thinks of all the hands that are raising dingy shades in 1,000 furnished rooms. 3. You tossed a blanket from the bed. You lay upon your back and waited. You dozed and watched the night revealing the 1,000 sordid images of which your soul was constituted. They flickered against the ceiling, and when all the world came back, and the light crept up between the shutters, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, you had such a vision of the street as the street hardly understands, sitting along the bed's edge, where you curled the papers from your hair, or clasped the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. 4. His soul stretched tight across the skies that fade behind a city block, or trampled by insistent feet at 4 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and short square fingers stuffing pipes, and evening newspapers, and eyes assured of certain certainties, the conscience of a blackened street, impatient to assume the world. I am moved by fancies that are curled around these images, and cling, the notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women, gathering fuel in vacant lots. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Read for LibriVox.org by Annie. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "This some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my book Circus of Sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here, for evermore. And the silken sad uncertain rustling of its purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "This some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my heart grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you." Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still at a moment, and this mystery explore." This the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not an instant stop or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. Perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and seven thou," I said, "art sure no craven, godly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore? Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door. Bird or beast above the sculptor bust above his chamber door, with such name as "Nevermore." But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, but a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, "Other friends have flown before, on the morrow will he leave me, as my hopes have flown before." Then the bird said, "Nevermore." Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, "Doubtless," said I, "what it utters is it only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his song one burden bore, till his dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, never more." But the raven, still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I willed a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy into fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking "Nevermore." This I sat engaged in gazing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet violet lining that the lamplight glided o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gliding o'er she soul pressed, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen cancer, swung by angels, whose faint footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by this angel he sent thee, respite and nepenthe from the memories of Lenore. Quaff of quaff, this kind of nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, think of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempter tossed thee here ashore. Desolate yet all undaunted on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, think of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden if, within the distant Aidenn, its soul claps a scented maiden whom the angels name Lenore, claps a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend I strike up starting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore, leave no black plum as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the buzz above my door, take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never fleeting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight over him, streaming throws his shadows on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Reincarnation by Arthur Adams. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. How flowers flaunt their immortality at us! You broke to wistful laughing speech that morning as we strolled, bending to each frail loveliness. They'll greet next spring, but we, one spring shall burgeon that we shall not see, when these pale blossoms that their sermon preach will grow too tall for our cold hands to reach. Ah, love, that we should perish utterly! No, in some later and some lovelier age I shall discover, 'neath the dust, this page, and idly read these uncouth verses through, writ by some stranger centuries ago, and wonder, startled, why they thrill me so, and, half remembering, lift my eyes to you. End of poem.
Rhapsody on a Windy Night by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. 12 o'clock. Along the reaches of the street, held in a lunar synthesis, whispering lunar incantations, dissolve the floors of the memory, and all its clear relations, its divisions and precisions. Every street lamp that I pass beats like a fatalistic drum, and through the spaces of the dark, midnight shakes the memory, as a madman shakes a dead geranium. 1:30, the street lamp sputtered, the street lamp muttered, the street lamp said, "Regard that woman who hesitates toward you in the light of the door which opens on her like a grin. You see the border of her dress is torn and stained with sand, and you see the corner of her eye twists like a crooked pin." The memory throws up high and dry a crowd of twisted things, a twisted branch upon the beach, eaten smooth, and polished as if the world gave up the secret of its skeleton, stiff and white, a broken spring in a factory yard, rust that clings to the form that the strength has left, hard and curled and ready to snap. 2:30, the street lamp said. Remark the cat which flattens itself in the gutter, slips out its tongue, and devours a morsel of rancid butter. So the hand of a child, automatic, slipped out and pocketed a toy that was running along the quay. I could see nothing behind that child's eye. I have seen eyes in the street trying to peer through lighted shutters, and a crab one afternoon in a pool, an old crab with barnacles on his back, gripped the end of a stick which I held him. 3:30, the lamp sputtered, the lamp muttered in the dark. The lamp hummed, Regarde the moon, la lune n'est guère d'aucune rancune. She winks a feeble eye, she smiles into corners. She smooths the hair of the grass. The moon has lost her memory. A washed-out smallpox cracks her face. Her hand twists a paper rose that smells of dust and old cologne. She is alone, with all the old nocturnal smells that cross and cross across her brain. The reminiscence comes of sunless dry geraniums and dust in crevices, smells of chestnuts in the streets, and female smells in shuttered rooms, and cigarettes in corridors, and cocktail smells in bars. The lamp said, 4:00, here is the number on the door. Memory, you have the key. The little lamp spreads a ring on the stair. Mount. The bed is open. The toothbrush hangs on the wall. Put your shoes at the door. Sleep. Prepare for life. The last twist of the knife. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Said Hanrahan by John O'Brien. Read for LibriVox.org by Son of the Exiles. Said Hanrahan. We'll all be ruined, said Hanrahan, in accents most forlorn, outside the church ere Mass began, one frosty Sunday morn. The congregation stood about, coat collars to its ears, and talked of stock and crops and drought as it had done for years. I believe you're right, said Daniel Croak. You'll find I'm right, bedad. For never since the banks went broke has seasons been so bad. It's looking crook, said young O'Neill, at which sedate remark he squatted quietly on his heel and chewed a piece of bark. And all around the chorus ran, it's keeping dry, no doubt. We'll all be ruined, said Hanrahan, before the year is out. The crops are done, you'll have your work to get one bag of grain. From here way out the back of Burke, they're singing out for rain. They're singing out for rain, he said, and all the tanks are dry. The congregation scratched its head and looked around the sky. There won't be grass in any case, enough to feed an ass. There's not a blade on Casey's place as I came down to Mass. If rain don't come this month, said Dan, and cleared his throat to speak, we'll all be ruined, said Hanrahan, if rain don't come this week. A heavy silence seemed to steal on all at this remark, and each man squatted on his heel and chewed a piece of bark. We want an inch of rain, we do, O'Neill observed at last, but Croak maintained we wanted two to put the danger past. If we don't get 3 inches, man, or 4 to break this drought, we'll all be ruined, said Hanrahan, before the year is out. In God's good time down came the rain, and all the afternoon on iron roof and window pane it drummed a homely tune, and all the night it pattered still, and lightsome sleepless elves in dripping spout and window sill kept talking to themselves. It pelted all day long, a singing at its work, and every heart took up the song way out to back of Burke. And every creek a banker ran, and dams filled over top, "We'll all be ruined," said Hanrahan, "if this rain doesn't stop." But stop it did, in God's good time, and spring came in to fold A mantle o'er the hills sublime of green and pink and gold, And day went by on dancing feet to harvest hopes immense, And laughing eyes beheld the wheat nid nodding o'er the fence. But oh, the smile on every face as happy youth and lass Through grass knee deep on Casey's place went riding down to mass. But round the church in clothes genteel discoursed the men of mark, And each man squatted on his heel and chewed a piece of bark. "There'll be bush fires for sure, my man, there will beyond a doubt. We'll all be ruined," said Hanrahan, "before the year is out." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet XXVII by Fernando Pessoa, read for LibriVox.org by Nancy Strickland. How yesterday is long ago. The past is a fixed, infinite distance from today, and bygone things, the first lived as the last, in irreparable sameness far away. How the to-be is infinitely ever out of place wherein it will be now. Like the seen wave yet far up the river, which reaches not us, but the new waved flow. This thing time is, whose being is having none. The equable tyrant of our different fates, who could not be bought off by a shattered sun, or tricked by new use of our careful dates. This thing time is, that to the grave will bear my heart, sure but of it and of my fear. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 80 by Anna Seward, read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Sonnet 80. As lightens the brown hill to vivid green, when juvenescent April's showery sun looks on its side with golden glance at noon, so on the gloom of life's now faded scene shines the dear image of those days serene, from memory's consecrated treasures won. The days that rose ere youth and years were flown, soft as the morn of May, and well I ween, if they had clouds, in time's alembic clear, they vanished all, and their gay vision glows in brightness unobscured. And now they wear a more than pristine sunniness, which throws those mild reflected lights that soften care, loss of loved friends, and all the train of woes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet XXIX by William Shakespeare, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself, and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Stepmother by James Whitcomb Riley, read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Stepmother. First she came to our house, Tommy run and hid, and Emily and Bob and me, we cried just like we did when Mother died, and we all said, et we all wished et we was dead. And nurse she couldn't stop us, and pa he tried and tried. We sobbed and shook and wouldn't look, but only cried and cried. Nen someone, we couldn't just tell who, was crying same as us. Our stepmother, yes, it was her, her arms around us all, 'cause Tom slid down the banister and peeked in from the hall. And we all love her too, because she's pert nigh good as mother was. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Thousandth Man by Rudyard Kipling. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. 1 man in 1,000, Solomon says, will stick more close than a brother, and it's worth while seeking him half your days if you find him before the other. 999 depend on what the world sees in you, but the 1,000th man will stand your friend with the whole round world agin you. 'Tis neither promise nor prayer nor show will settle the finding for 'ee. 999 of 'em go by your looks or your acts or your glory. But if he finds you and you find him, the rest of the world don't matter, for the 1,000th man will sink or swim with you in any water. You can use his purse with no more talk than he uses yours for his spendings, and laugh and meet in your daily walk as though there had been no lendings. 999 of 'em call for silver and gold in their dealings, but the 1,000th man, he's worth 'em all, because you can show him your feelings. His wrong's your wrong, and his right's your right, in season or out of season. Stand up and back it in all men's sight, with that for your only reason. 999 can't bide the shame or mocking or laughter, but the 1,000th man will stand by your side to the gallows foot, and after. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wishing by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. Do you wish the world were better? Let me tell you what to do. Set a watch upon your actions. Keep them always straight and true. Rid your mind of selfish motives. Let your thoughts be clean and high. You can make a little Eden of the sphere you occupy. Do you wish the world were wiser? Well, suppose you make a start by accumulating wisdom in the scrapbook of your heart. Do not waste one page on folly. Live to learn, and learn to live. If you want to give men knowledge, you must get it ere you give. Do you wish the world were happy? Then remember day by day just to scatter seeds of kindness as you pass along the way. For the pleasures of the many may be ofttimes traced to one, as the hand that plants an acorn shelters armies from the sun. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.